So hi everybody and welcome back. This is the Unreal Engine 5 tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 143, and in this video I want to talk about some points which I have forgotten to tell you. And let's get started. First of all, let's start with our, not this one, with our interface. So in the last video I showed you the performance that when you are able to set up an interface, that you need something like a collider and or a ray trace or something that is noticing the other blueprint anyhow. And most time you need is a collider or a ray trace, channel trace or ray trace or something like that, which is colliding also with another blueprint. And then you will get here this other actor. And I said when you can use this node does implement interface, then you can just check if it's implement this interface, and then we can call this interface which we want. Interesting is what I've forgotten to tell you. Of course, this interface call here has a target, right? And this target here is this other actor, and this is still very, very good because we don't create any variable here. We just take here this actor which is already registered here with this collider. That's nice. And what you can do also is you can even skip this part here, calling an interface at all. And that's a little bit strange, right? So we are not using even at all this interface functions here. Why not? Because when we watch this again, look here. If you have this one here, you can just write a function directly behind this one. So you don't have to call, depends on the situation, of course. You don't have to call interface function. So you can avoid one call. You can just implement the function which you want here directly behind this. You just check, does it implement this interface? And if this other actor does, then you know, okay, if you do implement this interface, I know you can execute this function, or you should execute this function here, what I want. In my case, let me demonstrate you something. So in my case, I'm right now in this trigger box here, and let's say if my overlapping actor is implementing this interface, and here I have called this destroy actor, right? When I remember right, I'm not sure. This was called by my player character. Let's see. Where is my player character? That was this Infinity Warrior here. Go in, and I go here to interfaces, and I have activate all, and yes, it is just destroying my actor. Instead, let's make a faster comment. Interface call. Right. Interface call. All right, you can see this little function here I don't have even to call, because I can skip this by just destroying my actor directly here without an interface call. I can say here, if this is true, destroy actor. And which actor? Careful, you have still to specify which actor, which means I have still to specify the other one here. But you can see I skipped this interface call. So I skipped the whole interface function call, which is important in other cases, but in this case not. So let me demonstrate to this one. It's very cool, very easy. So you can see I go in and I get destroyed. And that is also interesting to note, just so that you not think you have all time to call an interface call. The important part is here, this does implement interface. This node is like a if node, right? It checks just of whatever this other actor which collided with the collision box or with the hit trace or whatever. It just checks if it's implemented, and based on this information you can go on and do many things here, and your performance is very good. So that was one thing what I wanted to tell you. That's very nice, but I want to tell you also something about this level blueprint again, something, because many starters like this level blueprints. Actually, I liked it too till one point. And this till one point I want to show you. Why is level blueprint again so much interesting for starters, right? So this level blueprint, many starters I explained to you already. You can just right click anything here, or select here anything, and then right click here, and you have already this object here what you want, and then you can do something whatever you want without cars, without searching, without assigning, just directly and fast. That's why many like it, and I like it too for prototyping. It's very nice. Let me show you one more thing. Of course, this one we did also. You can select many things at start what you want, and with one drag you have all the objects which you want, and then you can instantly do what you want. That's cool. For fast prototyping, you can see it's absolute good, but not only for prototyping, it would be good also for actual programming. But I already told you there are some problems. For example, if you want to make let's say compared to blueprints, there's a problem that blueprints can be reused. This level blueprint, not really, but that's not the big problem, I think, because even if it can't be reused, you still could copy this code anyhow in a, let's call it library, something like that, and then use the this library and then get it all time from there and throw it in the next level blueprint when you need it. Something like that would be possible. So that's not the biggest problem. This is only, let's say, one problem. But the biggest problem what starters have with this approach is, let's say you are here in your level blueprint, you made here, you see I made here many stuff here, and this, very nice, very cool, and I get very fast access, and yeah, it's not a big problem. But what is, and now comes the big problem, what is if I want access here a variable not from this level blueprint? No, that's easy to access this. For example, to access this variable here in this level blueprint, very easy. I get it and I have access it, and then I can print it out. Print, when I write it right, print string. So here I can print it out, and then I go here to, where is level? Here on top is level. What's going on today? All right, here is my event begin play, and you can see here is already other print string, and now I print string. And what I want to show you is you can see accessing this variable in this level is absolute easy, nice, fine, and perfect. But then the people, let's say the starters, and myself too, when I started, I hated this one. What happens is, if you want access now this level blueprint here from another blueprint in your scene, let's say my box here, all time my box here, I want access it here. No, let's say my character. Let's say my character, because I already made an example with my character. So here's my character, and I want access now this level blueprint there. How the hell I access this one here? Normally with other blueprints what I showed you so far, all this videos till now, let me show you this again. You can see we made either a get all actors of class, or we accessed this directly in the scene, or we made here a interface and dispatcher, and yeah, there are different ways to access it, but the problem is we can't cast in blueprints anyhow to the level blueprint. So this cast node's not working. And the only option here which is really working anyhow, and yes, I think it's not the only one, but one of the only one, but one of the, let's say, limited options which you have is really this dispatcher here. And this dispatcher is not really liked by starters, because to set up a dispatcher is at start not easy, I would say, because you have to understand, of course, the dispatcher. How does it work? We have talked about the dispatcher, and in this special case it's even yeah, more complicated because it's very limited. And I want to show you what I mean with this limited access here. Here I said my goal is here, in this case, I want to access this variable string, for example. And for this purpose, I have set up a dispatcher, and we learned a dispatcher is just, let's say, this one node is very important for a dispatcher. And this node, if you have bind this node, this is just waiting that you call it, and then after you called it, it will execute this code here, what I have here assigned as an event. And this kind of stuff I have set up so that I can access this string. But look how, let's say, how much code you have to do just to access this variable here. What you have to do now is, first you have to create a dispatcher for this variable, for this level blueprint, right? In my case, I created it in my character, and down anywhere here should be, it says here event dispatcher. In my case, I called it just for test purposes this event dispatcher here. So I created this event dispatcher, and then after I created this event dispatcher, I'm not on the right place now. Where is my, oops, did I click it away? Yes, I did. All right, again, back to here. So we go back to event graph. So here, I created now this event dispatcher, and this event dispatcher means now anything can bind to this one, which means any from another place, I have to make a connection to my character. We learned this, right? So I can now create, for example, from this here or this here, I have to find my character, and then I can connect to this character here. And when my character is calling, then it will be activated all the code. Yeah, who is connected to my character, they will activate their code. So let's see how this looks like. So first of all, I created this event dispatcher, then I went to my level blueprint and I said, okay, level blueprint, make a connection to my character. And how I did this was here, get all players, I cast it special to my character. This is probably not the best way, but I wanted to make it just fast. So I cast it to my character, and then I set here this one just as a reference. I think that's also not so important in this case, but I set here just this one is not very important, but yeah, whatever. I have a reference now in my level blueprint. And then important is that what comes now, and then I bind to my event dispatcher. Like I said, when you create a event dispatcher here, my character, you have to bind from all other places to this character now. If you want to use this dispatcher here, I want to use it. And which means if I call now this event dispatcher here, all time when I call it, this all the codes who are bound to this, in this case this one, will be executed, and and in this event here, what this one do is just returning my string. So this event gets started. I said, okay, in this case it's even a little bit more complicated. I get to my character, which I have get from here, and I have created there a test variable, which means I created there also a string. This is just a string in my character, and then I have set this variable here from my character. So I wanted to access this one here, which, with other words, in this case, I overwrite this, get this variable here, and I overwrite this one here in my case, and then I printed out this one. So you can see my goal was here to overwrite this variable, but from another place. And all the setup was with this dispatcher here. And when I start this, I demonstrate you how you work, and I show you also how I call it. There was a special call in my case. So you can see here I set up the G keyboard. When I press this one, call this event dispatcher, I said when I call it, in my case it is set up here, but all the connected connected, yeah, all who are connected to my dispatcher, for example, this one is connected to my dispatcher, will execute this code and will access now this variable here. And yeah, that's it, more or less, that was it. And here are a little bit more strange setup, but that's not so important. The important thing is, you see, this setup is a little bit more complicated and not so, let's say, best favorable for many starters. So you can see here on top, when I press now G, it says here start point, and now okay, because I have overwritten it with my standard text here. I have not shown all of this one, but what I do is, when I press first time G, it starts the event dispatcher, then it prints this out, and then it calls this custom event, and then it will print out okay. Then that's what we saw here in the first press. It's not there. Start point, and now okay, it's overwritten. All right, anyway, the point is, you see, it's a little bit complicated to access here or change here variables from other places, not in the level blueprint. In level blueprint you can change it, you can send it, it's very easy. But if you want access from other places, this kind of stuff, or change this kind of stuff, then you have problems. And yeah, at least you have to set up a dispatcher, I think, and there are other possibilities as well, I think. But yeah, this is one important thing to note, because level blueprint in general are really powerful, at least I think so, besides that they are not so reusable. The only problem is this setup here. So if you find anyone who can set up this kind of stuff, or you don't have many variables which you want access from outside in the level blueprint, then this one is not a big deal. But if you have many variables here and you want to access many things from different places, from other sites, that can be a little bit, yeah, big setups, but not impossible. And why I'm saying this, because normally I thought, so I don't understand it, why Unreal Engine is not make level blueprint accessible. I mean, also not for like similar to a cast, I would say, so that anyhow that we can access it easy instead of this setup here. For example, in C++, this level blueprint, I'm not sure, I have not tested it, but in general, this level blueprint in C++ is just a class, which means you can, if you find the object, you have automatically access to this one, so you can set it, get it, no problem here. You have get this level event dispatcher just to set this variable. That's hard, and that's, I don't know. So anyway, why I'm telling you this, there are more reasons. For example, you as a developer, I said you have any way to decide in special situations what you can choose and what you have to choose. I said it's not, I showed you this nice example with this interface that looks really stunning, because performance super, very easy call. We are not creating any much variables because we are skipping this one because of this here and just calling this implement node. The problem here is, like I said before, there is still a problem. You can't use this in all places probably, and that can cause another problem, which means if you can't use this nice setup, what you have to use is one of the other setups. And when you have to choose now what, then you still have to think which one of this one is the best one. And yeah, that's let's say you have analyze eventually all, because you depends on the situation. You have really not all the options. For example, this option is also not all time available. I said here you can create here a variable, right? And then you can jump here in this scene, and then you can just, if it's available here on the details panels, if it's made available, instance editable, which means it is available here in defaults, and then you can just pick it, choose what you want to use. this kind of stuff is also not all time available. I showed you all, at least I told you an example. For example, let me make a fast example again. Here you are spawning in an object which is later spawned in the scene. Then you can't select this object. Perhaps you need it, then it's not possible, at least not with this version, with the selection version. And then, or you are generating a full level automatically generated levels. You probably know this dungeons. Most time in games, dungeons are created what is called procedurally created, which means all is automated. It is created and then the player is just going in, and then he can walk through and kill monsters or do anything like that in there. But the point is, it's all automatically created, so it's not at the start created, which means for a designer he can't use many of these options here. So you will relate, you have to really understand what can you use, and then you have to choose which one is really the best one here. And yeah, that's a very important point. So not that you think, hey, I learned now this super interface here and I can use it now in all places. That would be nice, but reality is that you can't use it in all places. At least depends on your game, right? And what you are doing. That's very specific. If you can use it, I would use it, but it will probably not all time possible. And that's why you still have to think about all the other options as well. And then you have to think which one is better, and performance here and additional work, right? So it's good to know all probably. And yeah, and in the next video, I think that's enough for this one here. In the next video, I want to talk about again these other possibilities which I mentioned already in the last video, where I said there are other ways as well. For example, casting to base classes, which means most time you have to know what inheritance means. And also this component based. These are two big topics actually. But we will talk a little bit about them as well, because there is one more thing, of course, which you should know. You can combine, for example, here in my inheritance later, you can say, okay, I can use inheritance plus combined with a base class cast, sometimes depends on situations, or you can combine this one here, get all actors of class or this tag and with other things. And then you have to think, yeah, the use cases, how to use them, how to combine them, which things make sense, which is cost not performance. And of course, sometimes as a starter, you should just think, for starters, most time, they are happy when they find one way which is working. They are really most time they are happy when they just find one way. If it's working, then take it at start. But take this just in your back mind that there are other versions perhaps perform better. And if your project gets any performance problems, like I said, you will anyway use later profiling tools, but then you have probably come back and yes, try to differentiate. Okay, we have to convert this kind of calls to this kind of calls and vice versa and so on. That's the thing. And yeah, I think I should stop here. And in the next video, like I said, we will talk about a little bit this base class casting. Which means just inheritance usage, so not only base class casting. So what is inheritance? We'll talk about this one. And this component based system is also a very powerful topic, which we have to at least see if we can use it, because I think that's also a very powerful thing to know, and nobody is using that so much. At least the starters are not using that so much. Most time they are using that what I showed, but this component based. Component based means just that you add here a component which has the functionality you want, instead of creating here the functionality in the event graph, and then this component of course can be reused in other actors as well, and that's why it's so powerful. About this one we have to talk, and inheritance. Okay, with that said, I stop here. If you have any questions or any complaints or any tips and tricks, write them all time in the comments. See you in the next video. Bye, good luck, and like all time, don't give up and have fun.